What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise postgame show presented by BetOnline. The Blazers got off to a 12-4 start in this game. An 18-6 start, controlled this game the entire way, but another double-digit fourth quarter letdown. Loses the game for Portland as Joel Embiid hits a turnaround game-winning jump shot. With 1.1 seconds remaining, the Blazers could not get off a quality shot on the final inbound possession, and the 76ers come back from a, 21-point deficit at one point, Eric, to win this
20.
game. 15-point halftime deficit, the Blazers choke another lead. We'll break down this game. This was a good game for the most part until late. The Blazers collapsed in the fourth quarter once again. More of the same from this Portland Trail Blazer team. But before we get into it, let me thank BetOnline for sponsoring today's post-game show. Use the promo code BELIEVE for a 50% reward bonus. March Madness tips off less than a week from now. I could not be more excited, and you can get in on some of that action with Believe. With the promo code BELIEVE on betonline.ag. BetOnline, where the game starts. Parlays, live betting, all sorts of fun stuff. Speaking of fun stuff, Eric, fun stuff here. The Blazers, they lose another double-digit lead. What is that, 16, 17, something like that?
It might be 17, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the fourth time this season that the Blazers have lost off a last-second shot to a team. It happened against the Nuggets with Jamal Murray at home. It happened on the road against SGA. It happened at home on a Royce O'Neal tip-in. And today, Joel Embiid with a turnaround jump shot that, honestly, I don't think you can play any better defense on. Like, that move is basically unguardable when you got a dude that big hitting shots like that. I think the only dude that could stop that might be Victor Wembanyama. He might have the length to block that shot, Eric. So that is the path that this team is headed on. They're heading towards Tankland as they lose once again. So first off, what are your feelings after this game? I know you're rooting for this team to tank, as you think it's the best long-term option for this team to try and get to contention, but still, obviously, a frustrating fourth quarter there. So what are your thoughts and feelings on this game as of now?
Yeah, I mean, if the Blazers were going to make a run, I know they're still only a few games out of fifth or whatever. It didn't hurt them really in the standings that much. But, I mean, you've got to start winning some of these games that you have leads in them actually going on a run, because they just completely wilt when a good team pressures them in the fourth quarter. And they had a 10-point lead with 5 minutes left, 114 to 104. They scored 5 points the rest of the game in the last 5 minutes. And It's just a familiar story. Chauncey doesn't know how to push the right buttons, seemingly, down the stretch of games. Dame, for all his greatness this year, forced a lot of shots that he shouldn't have took in that stretch, I believe. He had a bad turnover as well, and then Nurk's missing free throws, and yeah, I just don't understand how we can not get better shots with how many offensive weapons we have on the floor. With Anthony Simons cooking, with the year Dame's having, it should be much easier to get these guys open looks, at least one of them, and not just have them take turns trying to ISO and go against pressure when they start doubling, because I just feel like we play right into that. And then also, when you're up 10 with 5 minutes left, there becomes a point where you can win the game if you get stops. And Philadelphia made stops. We did not. While we kept our best defender, Matisse Thybulle, until the last play with a few seconds left on the bench. So my question is, why isn't, with a 10-point lead and not needing offense, when our offense sucked anyways, why are we not playing our best defenders in those situations? It's not like he had played a ton of minutes leading up to that. So why are we not having defensive lineups in these situations? And that's why I don't really trust what Chauncey's doing so far. And that's why I didn't trust this team to make runs, stringing together not only winning a game like this, but having to do it several times down the stretch here against good teams. Like, you have to have this kind of performance and finish these games, more than half of the games leading out the rest of the way. And I just don't think we're capable of that.
I mean, yeah, it's just Philadelphia is a really good team. Portland is not a really good team, and that showed up there in that fourth quarter. But in general, I thought the offense was actually very pleasing today. I thought the first half was maybe the best half of ball movement that they had all season long. They were generating great shots, whether they were hitting them or not. They were generating great shots because they were moving the ball in that first half. And we've seen it earlier this season where they've had good stretches of moving the ball, and then once the pressure ratchets up in the fourth quarter, they are seemingly incapable of playing the same style of basketball. And it's like Chauncey doesn't even switch anything up, but what they were doing all game was working. They were moving the ball, attacking gaps, attacking closeouts, and getting into the paint, drawing guys kicking out, getting open threes, or being able to get to the rim, dump off passes, or whatnot. They had that Philadelphia defense moving. And I thought it was the type of offense that really works well for this team because Ant got good shots. He was able to hit some. Cam Reddish, I think, had a good game today, 6 for 11, and he's good, I think, attacking space in a rotating defense and attacking closeouts compared to playing one-on-one. So offensively, for the good part of this game, I was actually very pleased with it, but it always happens whenever the Blazers are playing a good team and they move the ball well the first 3 quarters. I just always have that feeling like the pressure's going to ratchet up in the fourth quarter, and they're not going to move the ball, they're not going to attack the same way, and they're going to fold offensively, and then it's going to be, okay, well, we're not moving the ball, so we got to get Dame the ball to make something happen, and then Dame has kind of struggled in clutch so far this season. So, very, very frustrating, but kind of saw it coming.
Yeah, my issue is, in order to be good in the playoffs where you're playing good teams every game, and then you play the same team multiple times, you have to be able to play different ways. And within the course of the game, this is now the 40th time this season we have an example of another team changing what they're doing against us, and us just thinking the same thing that worked in the first half is going to work for the entire 4 quarters. And I'm just getting really sick.
What did they change, out of curiosity?
They started sending a second guy to Dame right when he crossed half court, and he left Eubanks in way too long because Eubanks would catch the ball, and by the time he could think of what to do with the ball, the defense had recovered. Awful, and so that was killing him. And then and then the times we did get to the free throw line, like obviously Nurk missed 4 of them, so that was frustrating. But my problem is we played the same way. They even mentioned this on the broadcast, like the high horn set where 2 people come up and set a screen almost at the logo for Dame had been working a lot over the last 20 games or so. And we didn't see that really at all tonight. And they thought maybe once the defense started changing for Philadelphia, Lamar Hurt pointed this out, that they would maybe run that to counteract that high pressure. And we didn't see that once. They just kept running that same basic stuff they were doing the rest of the game. And unfortunately, I mean, whether that's on Chauncey or not, ultimately he's got to be the one that gets them to play or adapt to what the other team is doing. And I just don't feel like that's something he's capable of doing at this point.
What I see is a team that is unable to operate offensively against high-level physical defenses down the stretch, no matter if they're running something or if they're playing in freelance. They played in freelance a lot in this game, and it worked for them. Some games, it's just completely stagnant. That's what you get running in freelance. And, there's a balance that you have to find in terms of running a structured offense, but also reading the defense and how the defense is playing you and then making plays out of that offense. And this team, when they're doing that, is elite offensively, and they were elite offensively in the first half. They scored 71 points on this Sixers team, which is a solid to, I don't know where they rank defensively, but they're a good defensive team. They're one of the best teams in the East so far this year. Every single time, once it gets to the fourth quarter, or middle part of the fourth quarter, you see these elite defenses, these good defenses, get into the ball more. And all of a sudden, the passes we were making, we're either too scared to make or we're just throwing it into hands. We're not good enough when defenders pressure up on the ball. And that'll take you out of any sort of ball movement in freelance offense, but that'll also take you out of your sets if you're not able to make a simple pass to the wing. And a lot of times I feel like this team doesn't do a good job squaring up against pressure in the final 5-6 minutes. You know, when you catch the ball on the perimeter and you're getting pressure, you got to be strong with the ball, but you gotta face your defender and you got to rip it through and drive against that contact and get going downhill, because you can beat that defender or at least draw fouls. And this team doesn't tend to do it. Dame will, but other guys on this team struggle in those scenarios, and I don't think Cam Reddish will be a guy that fixes that, because I think he's good when he's able to attack space, but attacking defenders that are up into him, I think, is one of his areas of struggle. I don't know, man. We talked about the physicality last post-game stream, and I think part of it has to do with that, and part of it is mental, and, you know, I could sit here and say Chauncey needs to run this, run a offense. He needs to run a set to get them good shots and this and that. But it seems like when they're trying to run something late in games against good defenses that are playing physical, they get completely taken out of it anyway. And then, you know, moving the ball, cutting, like, it just, the offense that they were running all game long was really, really good. And you know, they ratchet up the pressure, start taking the ball out of Dame's hands, and we can't make those same reads, can't make those same plays, aren't as aggressive, and it's a problem. But I think it's, you know, a collective thing. Mentally, this team doesn't respond well to those situations, though, and even Dame has struggled mentally responding to those situations. He made some misreads down the stretch, had a couple of turnovers down the stretch, had a couple of questionable shots down the stretch, and when that's happening with him, then it's all going to fall apart.
I don't know. I see down the stretch, every single play was either ISO or pick and roll, and we did nothing to, like, get anyone going towards the basket to free up either Ant or Dame off ball. It was all just ISO and pick and roll, and that's, to me, that's on the coach to just keep going back to that every time. And we know that against pressure, it's really hard. And then when you have those other guys that aren't exactly picking it up or overcoming them, or they're not even touching the ball. Like, how many times did Jeremy Grant touch the ball? He was having a good game too. Mm-hmm. Like Ant got like 2 shots, I think, in the last 5 minutes or something. It's just like at some point, and then on top of that,
I have a question that I want to ask you in regards to that. Or okay. You can go into that point, or question.
I just have one more thing to say, and this is why I blame Chauncey. That there's no way around this. His out of timeout play calling is absolute garbage.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone knows you're going to have Dame coming up top to the ball, and then Cam throws a bad pass, but there was no second option. Everyone else was just standing around waiting for Dame to get the ball and shoot, because there wasn't enough time to pass again. So, like, that was all we had, and that's my problem is down the stretch of games, that's all we're doing. And that's the thing we complained about with Stotts for years, is that we don't have any sort of counter when they try to take Dame out and when Dame's trying to shoot tough shots. And until they figure out that they, like Golden State, will play Curry off ball and run him around off ball, and it makes it so much harder for other teams to double him and take him out and pressure him. And until the Blazers figure that out, they're going to continue to have these problems.
Yeah, I mean, they were blitzing Dame a little bit harder, even without screens there down the stretch. They were trapping him all game, though, and I thought this team did a really good job of moving the ball out of that. What do you think Chauncey was calling differently on the offensive side of the ball from the first 3 quarters where the team was moving the ball really well compared to that final stretch where they couldn't do anything?
To me, in the first half, he had much more players getting involved. So we had a lot of design plays for Grant to get the ball. We were getting the ball to Nurkic with shooters in the corners. I mean, quite frankly, our shooters were actually like Grant made threes this game. He hadn't made, he hadn't been shooting the ball well for several months. So, I mean, he hit a couple of threes in the first quarter. Ant hits a wide open three off a kick out from Nurkic, and then starts going nuclear. But he made some incredibly difficult shots throughout this game. It's not like he was getting wide open shots or anything. So, like, I don't agree that the ball was moving, but I don't agree that they were necessarily playing like a better style or something in the first half.
I thought they were. I thought they were moving the ball pretty well. I was happy. I was happy with the first half offense. It's just this team can't get it to translate to the fourth quarter. But that's the thing is in the first half is getting those guys involved. Part of me wonders, like, is that specific calls from Chauncey, or is that just guys on the floor getting the ball into certain spots? I'm not saying Chauncey doesn't run anything, but he doesn't run enough stuff. So it's always interesting from a game-to-game basis because it's like the offense can look completely different. And that says to me that a lot of the stuff that they're running isn't necessarily structured offense. And I just thought this team did a really good job reading and reacting, at least with the starters, in that first half. With Eubanks in, he got put in some short roll positions where he struggled. The processing is a little too slow there in the first half. But I thought, with Nurk, the 5 starters in, and then with Reddish as well, this team just zipped the ball. The ball didn't stick, and it was regardless of the situation or what they were running offensively. And Cam Reddish was able to have a good first half because he was attacking gaps and whatnot. 6 for 11 from the field for him, 1 for 4. He was getting kick-out passes and able to attack closeouts, and that's kind of what we've seen from this team this year is in the first half they can have some really good offensive halves because they are moving the ball, attacking closeouts well, getting into the paint, finishing, dumping the ball off, or kicking out for open threes. Obviously, hitting shots helps, and starting 6 for 7 is a bit of an outlier, and that certainly helped the Blazers get out to a lead in this game. It's just so crazy how much of a pattern it's been for that to completely disappear in the second halves of fourth quarters against good teams.
Yeah, but I mean, good teams make adjustments and start taking away things that are successful, and then the Blazers don't change at all. You know what I mean?
I mean, they only I didn't see much of an adjustment. They were just trapping Dame even more. It still should be sort of the same type of play out of that trap.
Yeah, I don't know. I think defense has switched what they're doing a little bit, and our zone was working really well in the first half. I was actually impressed with the rotations on it, but once again, we didn't really switch it up in the second half. It's the same story for me. Like we think the same game plan is going to work the entire game.
Yeah. I will say this, and I'm curious to know if you noticed this or not. When a team traps, you got to make quick reads, right? Because, as we've always said, if you have 2 on the ball against Dame, you have a 4-on-3 behind that. Mm-hmm. And if you attack that quick enough, you're going to be able to generate some pretty good looks. And I thought, for the most part, that's what they did in the first half. I feel like a big issue with this team, and you have a couple new guys on this team. It still seems to be a little bit of a problem. Is in the fourth quarters when teams trap Dame, whether it's off the pick and roll or just sending a second defender to him when he's crossing half court. When we get the ball out of that trap, I feel like players are slower at making decisions to try and beat that trap. I feel like I don't know if it's the defense moving faster, just the intensity of the defense and guys flying around making Blazers offensive players second guess the next pass or the next play, or what, but I feel like that's been a bit of a problem, is guys are much slower trying to make the right play, or they're second guessing the right play out of that trap, regardless of how the trap's set up or where it's at. They're not making quick enough decisions to beat it, and that's part of the problem late in games, is they're not able to beat the trap, and it bogs everything down, and then they're not in a set, and then it becomes, okay, give the ball to Dame, and he has to do something.
Yeah, but like at the beginning of the third quarter, the ball's moving around. Like Thybulle had a nice cut, and Nurk finds him for an alley-oop dunk. Nurk had a kick out to a three. Like I felt like, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's the players, and once like Reddish came in the third quarter, like he came out for like a minute in the fourth quarter, but did he play basically like 18 straight minutes or something? Like,
I'm not sure. I can check. I'll check.
Like, I don't feel like he came out much once he came in the second half outside that 1 minute. And that's like, I understand giving him a run. Like, I'm fine with that. But like, once again, like he's not in the shape to play like that many minutes in a row right now. And I know we're trying to get him into shape, but like we had Thybulle sitting on the bench, and Thybulle actually played really well on both sides of the court with the starters, and for some reason we don't have him in. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, so Cam Reddish subbed in because he didn't start. He subbed in with 8 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah. And then he came out in the fourth with like 6 minutes left, right? For a minute. 6:33, comes out, and then comes back in at 5:16.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was 14 straight minutes. It was 14 straight minutes, a 1 minute break, then the final 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
basically 19 of the 19 minutes in the second half.
Yeah, 19 of the last 21 minutes. And I mean, a big part of kind of what I brought up with guys making plays too slow or not making the right plays late in fourth quarters when the defense ratchets up intensity could be fatigue as well, because guys have been ran into the ground a bit too much this year. And this ties into another conversation that I've always had in regards to CJ and Ant and bringing them off the bench. And it's like, you're either going to cut their minutes, sub them in so early in each half that it's not going to matter, or you're playing them 18 minutes in a row to end games. And I've had people legitimately say to me, like, oh, they're young and they're athletes, they're fine playing the final, 18 minutes of a half. No, they're not. No, but nobody is, man, because it's a fast-paced game. It's a fast-paced league. You got to have guys fresh at the end of games. I think that's been a little bit of a problem with missing open shots even. The Blazers have had bad final 5 minutes this season because they've missed good shots. It's not necessarily that they're not executing, they're just not making shots, and I think some of that has to do with the legs, because there'll be somebody like Jeremy Grant who's playing 39 minutes in a game. So I think that is something where Chauncey's really struggled this year, is he has mismanaged minutes, and it's caused problems late in fourth quarters. It's maybe caused problems in games where, the previous game somebody played 41 minutes and the following game they just don't fully have their legs, so they struggle a little bit, and it can be a cascading effect when you're running guys into the ground too much. So I think that is an area that could be plaguing this team, and probably has plagued this team all season long in fourth quarters, and that is somewhere where Chauncey has struggled.
Yeah, and Jeremy Grant plays 42 minutes tonight as well. Dame plays 39. It's just tough, man.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just looking at chat. Nurkic is back, so we're back to the delusional Nurkic hate. There's a comment that says Nurkic wasn't even trying to score those free throws. Do you think he was trying to miss? Seriously? Seriously, dude in chat? Come on. Like, let's not be ridiculous. I know you're in shambles right now because this is a tough loss, but you think he was trying to miss free throws? No, he wasn't. It sucks that he missed 4 free throws. It's funny how missing 4 free throws near the end of the game, people say, "Oh, that That's what lost them the game. It was a 1-point game. You could say every shot this game lost them the game because if that shot went in, they would have won the game, right? That's the thing is an empty possession in the first quarter is the same as an empty possession in the fourth quarter. The possession in the fourth quarter just has more emphasis on it because it's a tie game with 1 or 2 minutes left. So it's a very notable play when it's like, oh man, if that just went in, they would have won, right at the end of the game. Nobody remembers a missed shot or a misplay in the first quarter. But that's the thing is that's something I've never done, Eric, is I've never come on here and say, oh yeah, those 2 missed free throws at the end of the game was the reason why they lost, because every play adds up. Every good play and every bad play adds up. Every possession matters. Talking about postseason basketball, you'll hear a lot of coaches and a lot of players say every possession matters. Every possession is important because they all add up. So, Nurkic needs to knock down those free throws. Absolutely. It's not an excuse for missing free throws. It's just I don't like when people chalk up a loss to a couple specific bad plays right at the end of the game when there's been multiple players all game long with multiple bad plays that count all the same.
Yeah, I mean, Reddish had 4 turnovers, but he's the golden child, right? So what if he doesn't have one of those 4 turnovers?
Exactly.
But anyways, it's funny because I heard nothing but, oh man, Nurk looks so good tonight. Nurk, this is the freshest he's looked all season, even though it's like exactly how he's played all season. But yeah, I mean, he missed free throws. I think it was one of the games in the bubble. I forget if it was the Philly game we lost or the Clippers game we lost, but Dame missed a free throw at the end. And everyone's like, if Dame just makes a free throw, we win, even though he had like 50 points or whatever in the game. It's like, come on, like no one's perfect. I mean, missing 4 free throws sucks, yes. But outside of those 4 free throws, and he didn't hit a 3 tonight, which sucked. But outside of that, he was phenomenal in this game. So I'm not going to blame anyone for missing a free throw or try to act like he missed it on purpose. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. If it's a late game decision that's specifically bad, that specifically leads to giving up buckets and losing the game because of it, then you can sit here and say, oh, that specific decision was a bad decision, and it ended up with them losing the game because of it, because it was the bad decision. But there's a difference between analyzing like a bad decision from a coach compared to a guy missing an open shot or a guy missing a free throw. Because everybody's trying to make shots. Nobody's trying to miss shots. And sometimes you miss shots. Like, you're not going to make 100% of the shots that you shoot. So there's a difference in terms of talking about both those things. Nurkic wasn't trying to miss free throws. Shout out to Priest with a $2 dono. Says, now we finna pull the plug on this team for #tank. Thank you, Priest, for that $2 dono. Yeah, we'll look at Tankathon here in a little bit.
They're not going to pull the plug until they're eliminated.
Yeah. Well, as a fan base, or as a fan, are you pulling the plug, Priest? Because, yeah, Dame's going to play, and they're going to try and win. But I feel like this might have been the point where a lot of fans were like, okay, let's tank.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then we win the next game, and they'll be back to wanting to win.
Right, yeah. So we'll be back in 9th place or something. And
Yep. I'm tired. I'm done riding the roller coaster, guys. I'm fine with this loss. I knew Embiid was going to hit that shot, too. I just knew it. I knew it.
Good shot. Good defense. Good shot.
You can't guard that move, man. Can't guard that move. I love that move. Because basically it's like you hustle as a defensive player. You hustle to cut off their drive. And Nurkic did a really good job hustling to cut off Embiid's drive without fouling him. Too. And Dame went and helped. But it's like your momentum is going towards the rim, so the second the offensive player stops and turns back, it's almost impossible to stay with that offensive player because you're reacting to them. You're running to cut them off, going to the rim, and then they're stopping and fading away from the rim. And as a 7-footer with a high release, I mean, you can't block that shot. So there's literally nothing more Nurkic could have done on that final offensive play. It wasn't like the SGA game winner, which we completely botched that defensive possession, or Jeremy Grant when we're up 2 against Jamal Murray, letting him have a 3. Or Royce O'Neal with the tip in because we got Damon Ant in on a final defensive possession under the rim trying to get that rebound against the Nets earlier in the season. Like, this was the one game winner where it was just like, okay, you tip your cap. That was a good shot.
Yep, and the thing about, like, I've called for double teaming a lot this season. Dame had a great double team on the Nurk steal one where he came. Nurk was playing topside. Dame came with the double baseline, and when Embiid turned around, he had no idea Dame was going to be there, and it forced a turnover. That was the perfect double team there, but normally it's the same way with Jokic. Those guys are just so tough to send a double team at once they have the ball because especially in the middle of the paint like that, because like he can just go the other way like he did. Like we were sending the double team at him and he just spun the other way. Like what are we supposed to do? Have 3 guys on him? But he just passed over the top of whoever that is. So I think he just got to live with that. I had a problem throughout this game, especially with Eubanks guarding him. He was letting him get by him. He was pressing up too much. And I think with Embiid, you just got to make him take tough shots like that, make him shoot 15 to 18 footers all game, and live with the results of that, even though he is hitting them tonight. Like, you can't let him just blow right by you and get dunks and stuff. So I think they played that well. I don't think they're last. And at least Chauncey put Thybulle in for that possession, I guess. But where was he on all the other defensive possessions down the stretch when we needed to stop?
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Thybulle. Reddish did have 4 turnovers. If Reddish played worse, I'd be a lot more mad about that. I do think Reddish played relatively well. But when you have a 11-point lead with 5 minutes left and you have Dame, Nurk, Grant, and Anthony Simons, you just need to get stops. Because, that's the thing is they could have, if they just got stops, they give up 21 points in the final, 5.5 minutes. They struggled mightily offensively down the stretch, but if they just got a couple more stops and didn't play awful defense the last 5.5 minutes, then they still would have won this game. So it would have been nice to have seen Thybulle, and he was a team-leading plus 14. He's familiar with this team. For some reason, he only plays 19 minutes. Don't really understand that one.
Yep. And, Reddish did have a really good offensive game. I think it's important to note that he does fit in better with better players than when he's not asked to, carry the offense or do much. I know they're trying to force him to be, a ball handler, but I think he's better as, an outlet option for Dame and can attack closeouts and things like that. That's a good player to have. But I just see an absolute Ole Matador defense from him. He just got blown by for easy layups several times, was cut out of position several times. And honestly, outside of that play where Anthony lost his shoe and couldn't get back in time, outside of that play, which was unfortunate, Reddish was responsible for several of the open threes they got down the stretch too, because he got caught watching the ball or in the wrong position. So unfortunately for him, and not many fans seem to notice it. I don't know. They have a blind spot for his defense for some reason, but it's just I just don't understand. Double-digit lead, you don't need a scoring lineup. You need a defensive lineup, and it'll just continue to puzzle me why Chauncey did not go to a defensive lineup.
I'm trying so hard to, give Reddish the fairest of chances to win me over, because people didn't like how I didn't like him as a player before we traded for him and then after we traded for him. And, offensively, he had some really good moments in this game, but... Yeah, defensively, not good. But this is what I've said about Cam Reddish, is he's not the defensive player that people chalk him up to be, at least on the ball. He's not strong. He could get driven through. He can get bullied. He doesn't get rebounds. He had 2 rebounds in 36 minutes today. Doesn't really help on the boards. And he's just not a good on-ball defender. Bites at crossovers too much, that sort of thing. He's just not a good defensive player. And then offensively, 1 assist, 4 turnovers. 1 assist, 4 turnovers. I mean, he turns the ball over, and it's not like, I know he had that 8 assist. Nice, but... Yeah, I know he had that 8 assist game, but it's like every time he gets an assist, it's like, oh, look, see, he can be a point forward. It's like 36 minutes, 1 assist, 4 turnovers. That's not. Yeah, I'm saying he has a good game, but I'm probably not being tough enough on him, to be honest.
No, I mean, he had some nice moments. His 1 assist was really nice. It's just. We need a locked-in defense, and to me, the starters at both the beginning of the first quarter and the beginning of the third quarter looked phenomenal as a unit with Thybulle. So that's one of the positives I took out of this game was the Dame and Thybulle, Grant, Nurk lineups look tremendous tonight. I'd like to isolate just those and see what the plus-minus is on those lineups before they got someone subbed out. So, yeah, I mean, that would unfortunately our bench comes in and just messes it up. But I mean, there are some positives you can take from this game, and getting healthy is good. But I mean, there's not enough time left to lose games like this and still think you're going to make a legitimate run.
Yep, absolutely. Huh. NBA.com's being weird. What in the world? That's strange.
Thybulle was a plus 14.
Yeah.
According to Ish. But that includes the basket at the end of the game.
Yeah. That's so strange. NBA.com is giving me a message. Access denied. You can't access NBA.com on this server. I've never seen that before. I don't know if they can.
Maybe it's down or something.
I logged into Chrome and it worked, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they can tell that I'm streaming on YouTube through the same browser, so they're stopping me from streaming their highlights or what. That's strange. It's like I'm not even streaming their highlights. I just wanted to look at his turnovers, NBA.com.
And once again, plus or minus isn't the end-all, be-all. I'm just saying he didn't play that much outside of... He was in for a while in the first quarter. He was in for a while in the third quarter. He came back in for a little bit in the fourth, and then the last few seconds. So those were all the times where the team played well. So it's just kind of weird that we didn't put the lineup that played the best in this game down the stretch. Why we'd have a lineup that wasn't our best lineup out there.
Yeah. I mean, he functioned well in the flow of the offense. The offense had flow in that first half and played good defense. You know what Reddish really needs to add to his game, Eric?
What's that?
He needs to add a floater.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's shot a floater, but I feel like a lot of times his turnovers come from getting too deep into the paint and then either just getting stripped because he's driving into a defender or jumping in the air, not having an option, and then throwing a bad pass. That's not all his turnovers, but I feel like that's a problem. I feel like a lot of times he'll have a 10-foot floater available, and he's 6'8", so he should be able to get that floater off over bigs, and he just dribbles at them instead. But then also just has to become stronger as a ball handler, That's the thing. Then that's what I said about him being a point forward or point guard or whatever. I think he's fine, taking the ball up without defensive pressure, but anybody can do that. I can bring the ball up the floor without defensive pressure and then pass it to Dame 35 feet away from the rim and then watch Dame do something. You could do that. Half the people in our chat, anybody in our chat that knows how to dribble a basketball could do that. It's not him being a point guard at all. It's just him bringing the ball up. There's a difference. Being a point guard, if you're going to be a point forward or a point guard, that label implies that you're able to beat pressure off the dribble. You're able to consistently set the table for your teammates, or you're at least able to consistently kind of run the offense with the ball in your hands. A couple of his turnovers today was just him not being a strong enough ball handler. He had that play where he tried to ISO Embiid and just basically dribbled it off his leg with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. Just kind of stumbled over the dribble. And then he had a play in the fourth quarter where he was just drove into contact. I don't even know if the ball got hit at all. There was just a little bit of physicality on his drive, and he just lost the ball. And that's the problem with Reddish, is physicality on drives he struggles with, but then also his ball handling. I mean, there's nice moments, but it's not strong enough to be a guy that consistently handles point guard duties. He can bring the ball up, but we see Shaedon Sharpe bring the ball up. We see Trendon Watford bring the ball up. We see a bunch of guys bring the ball up. There's a difference between that and being a point whatever.
Mm-hmm. And for me, when you have Ant back and you have Damon Ant, we don't necessarily need the ball handling. So we need defense. And like I said, I think hit some of his strengths with the starting lineup at least get minimized because, we don't necessarily need his strengths in that starting lineup. We need the best possible defensive lineup around those guards. And yeah, fortunately tonight didn't happen.
Yep. Anyway. Do you want to look at Tankathon now, or you want to
let's
talk more about this game? All right, Tankathon time. Let me load it up. There we go. Cool. All right. So Portland is currently tied for 8th with Washington, but Eric, they're only a half game out of 7th. They're only 1 game out of 6th, which is where they finished last year. So we're 1 game off from being where we were last year, which is kind of crazy because the Blazers have actually been, at least inconsistently competitive this year. And last year they tanked for a good 2-3 months where they could barely win a game. So it's kind of crazy how different this season is. 27 wins this year might get you 4th best odds, if not definitely 5th, which is how many wins the Blazers had last season. But they are currently, tied for 8th. They're half a game ahead of Oklahoma City for 10th, and then Toronto's and Utah are a game off of Portland and Washington. So you get up to 7th, past Chicago, who isn't necessarily trying to tank because their pick is to Orlando unless they move up into the top 4. Then you'd have a 7.5% chance at Wemby. You get up to 6th, 9% chance. 9% chance. And I think that's the best case scenario, is getting up to 6th.
Yep.
So right now the other pick is 23rd. It would be nice for Phoenix to pass New York and maybe Brooklyn to pass New York too. You don't want New York to be in a play-in. You want New York to be the 6th seed in the East, basically. Because if that could get up to 21, that would be nice.
I'll just take the pick regardless, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll just take the pick regardless. Don't want to lose it. But, I mean, honestly, if they were in a play-in, but the 7th seed, you would expect them to win at least one of those 2 games.
You would expect it, but I cannot handle that this year. They cannot do that to us 2 years in a row, please.
I know. No. It would be an absolute travesty. But, that would be maybe in the 19th or 20th pick. You'd get that pick higher. I mean,
I don't think two or 3 spots is worth having to go through what we went through last year.
Exactly. That's why I'm rooting for them to avoid the play-in. But, I'm just saying, if they didn't completely choke, because if they're the 7th or the 8th seed, they just have to win 1 of 2 games.
Yeah, right? They lose the first one, and then Brunson and Randall get COVID or something.
Oh, God, it'd be some crap like that. So,
or one of them turns an ankle and can't play, and then, yeah.
God, I'll be rooting as hard for Josh Hart as I ever have. I mean, yeah, that's stressful, but it would result in a higher pick if they didn't choke. So, I don't want that to happen, but as long as they didn't choke, it would be a little bit better, is all I'm trying to say. Not rooting for it, though. Yeah. Also, I wish we just got the better out of Dallas's first and their own first, because they have Dallas's first right now. They'd have the 16th pick.
Yep.
Would have been nice to have that. Look how good Josh Hart's been for them. That would have been nice, but nope. Maybe we guilt trip them into trading 16 for 23 in the second. Like, hey, Josh Hart was phenomenal. Got you guys to the NBA Finals. All right. Can we
We'll
move
offer you
up?
5 seconds.
Oh, that's funny. Anyway, and then Portland does have a second round pick.
45 right now, I think.
Yeah, I'll just show it here. Right now, it'd be at 45. And they have us taking Jordan Walsh, Eric. Julian Strother right above him. At 23, they got Taylor Hendricks. But at 8, they got Keontae George, which this is just like randomly generated. But Taylor Hendricks is not falling to 23. That's the Derek Lively spot. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's simulate this thing. Fingers crossed. Got a 5.3% chance at the number 1 overall pick. A couple of streams ago, it was only 2.1, so more than doubled it. Anyway. 14 is the Lakers. 13 is New Orleans. 12 is Utah. 11 is Toronto. 10 is OKC. Moment of truth. 9 is Portland. Charlotte 4, Washington 3, Detroit 2, and Chicago jumps up and gets the number 1 overall pick.
And keep their pick.
Yeah, and keep their pick. God, that Orlando would get screwed. Can this ad get out of the freaking way? No, just move it to the left. Just stop. Oh, God. Tinkathon has to fix this. It drives me crazy. Like, why is your ad over the lottery?
Never had that happen.
So strange. My computer is tripping. Yeah, this would be worst case scenario for Orlando. End up with 7 and don't get the Bulls pick. They're going to be nervous on lottery day. Let's get a top 4 scenario though, and just take a look at something like that. Well, I mean, we don't even have to take a look at this. This would be Wemby, obviously. Or no, I wouldn't do that. But I was gonna say Toronto at 3. You would have the option of 1 for 3 and Anunoby.
No.
Yeah,
that's
but hell no.
If they gave us like 8 first-round picks.
Yeah, like if we could flip future first from them into Joel Embiid and you had Anunoby, then maybe. But yeah, no, you don't. You don't give up a generational prospect for a role player and a lesser prospect, even if it's a really, really, really good role player. That's exactly what the team needs. Wemby is yeah. Give me Wemby. Let's see a scenario with them not being number 1. They just got number 1 twice out of 3 roles. I just want to see like a potential trade down scenario. Let's just simulate. Okay, at 4. What are you thinking at 4 in this sort of scenario? Who do you think Detroit would take at 3, by the way?
I think Detroit's probably taking one of the Thompson twins.
Mm-hmm. This draft plays out perfectly for Orlando because they could use Scoot. Scoot's a good that's a good landing spot for him, I think. And then San Antonio gets Wemby. Supposedly Wemby's interested in playing there. I don't know where I saw that, but San Antonio has good success with international players. But at 4, so let's assume they take Amon at 3. What would you want to do at 4?
Take Miller.
You take Miller?
Yeah. It's either that or, trying to get the same package like OG and 11 for 4, type of situation.
Cronin might be liked enough to take Miller. If Neil Olshey was still GM, he wouldn't be able to. This fan base wouldn't let him. I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Trade down scenarios. Nothing interesting here, I feel like. 4 in Nurk for 7 in Turner.
That's something they do.
Absolutely. PJ Washington is a free agent, so trading down to 6 with Charlotte isn't doable for him. There's really nobody on the roster that interests me. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's a late riser to 4 like Keegan Murray was last year.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Tankathon.
I do have a trade question. If we got the number 2 pick, I think would be the only way this would happen.
Yeah.
All right. We've talked about before how Miami is, throughout their history under Pat Riley, they have been completely unwilling to go the rebuild route. They have been bad for a year, get a high draft pick, and then try to add stars to that. Yeah. But they've never traded Dwayne Wade for 5 first or something. They've never really been willing to do the kind of full rebuild moves.
Mm-hmm.
However, in a scenario where they thought Scoot was a big enough star to do that for, would you trade number 2 and our whole entire roster of tradable players outside of the free agents and Dame and Jabari Walker would be the only 2 players we could keep and have the math work on this?
Yeah.
So the traded out players would be, let me just get the exact people. It would be Ant, Sharp, Nurk, Knox, Little, Keon, and Trendon.
Yeah.
We have to include all 7 of those guys.
Okay.
To make the math work. Unless we did something with signing the number 2 pick and then waited 30 days. So I guess that could work. Okay. So it's those, the big names there would be Shaden, Ant, and Nurk, right?
Yeah.
And number 2, so Scoot.
Yeah.
For both Bam and Jimmy.
Oh boy.
So you're giving up on both. You're giving up on all 3 of the youngins: Scoot, Ant, and Sharp. But you basically add Dame and Grant and can keep Thybulle, Reddish, and you basically have that lineup, and you add basically them to Miami's team that made to the final, the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
Oh God, that's a disgusting question because I don't know.
I think if that is offered, and you have Dame, you have to do it. But yeah.
I feel like that could backfire and then we'd be screwed for a decade. The risk on that is super high.
But you'd have Dame, but so you'd still have, maybe you could ask them for the 20th pick or something. So you'd still have your 2 later first round picks. You'd have Dame, Butler, Grant, and Bam as 4 of your starting 5, and then
and then Thybulle and
put in Thybulle, or if you get the MLE.
The shooting with Thybulle and Butler next to Dame is not good. And Bam isn't a shooter either. That'd be 3 non.
But we'd have easily a top 5 defense, and Dame could play a lot off ball with that lineup.
Yeah, I feel like that defense could be 6 to 10. It would be top 10 for sure. I don't know about for sure top 5. I don't know. It's going to be a much better team than it is now. I do have questions about, how do Dame and Jimmy play off each other? I think Dame can play off Jimmy, but can Jimmy play off Dame? And then...
I see people like Hero and Lowry and stuff play fine off him, so...
Yeah, Dame would be able to play off Jimmy. I just don't know if Jimmy can play off Dame.
I don't even trust Cronin to make this trade if it was offered to him. So no, I don't trust him to get depth. But I think there would be guys willing to ring chase with that.
Jimmy just isn't. He's better with the ball in his hands. It's not like Simons, where Simons is a legitimate threat off the ball. Jimmy, he's just not a good enough shooter anymore.
He's a good slasher though.
Yeah, he's a good slasher.
And Bam would be like the perfect defensive center.
I'm not saying no, I just have questions.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you had Embiid, you don't have questions. Embiid and Dame are just going to be phenomenal together. And Embiid is going to help the defense a lot. Like, whereas, I don't know. It's tough giving up that much for a roster that still has questions, you know?
Well, then, guards come into play. Like, I haven't really looked at guards that much in the draft, but if you had a later or right now it'd be like the 20th and 23rd picks, I think. Like you could go after like a Sensabaugh or a Jordan Hawkins or something.
Jordan Hawkins would be intriguing because we need shooting.
And you could still get Lively. So I think you could make it work.
Yeah. Jordan Hawkins would be probably my favorite guard out of that bunch because he'll be able to shoot the ball at a high level in the NBA. I don't really have much doubt about that. And that team would need a knockdown shooter, so would be a guy that could come in and play right away as a shooter.
Yeah, and you could always go for shooting with the mid-level exception too.
You could always go Jimmy at the 2 as well, like filling in that final starter. You just need a guy that can shoot.
Yeah,
I don't think Reddish or Thybulle. Like if you're going for it, you don't do that and then like, oh yeah, our 5th starter is going to be Thybulle or Cam Reddish. Like if those guys are off your bench, okay, fine, but you don't settle for your 5th starter being one of those 2 guys if you're really going all in like that.
We'd also still have that $8 million trade exception that we could attach one or both of those picks to maybe go after someone. Yeah. Maybe you could still find a way to free up future picks to get Vassell or something by offering a big package to, or even Keldon Johnson. His contract goes up too much.
Yeah. So since we're on this topic, right? Like, there's a bunch of people.
I'll get Seth Curry back.
Yeah. Seth Curry. Yeah. Since we're on this topic, there's a bunch of people that act like Cronin has some master plan or some big moves coming. And we just played Embiid, and that's kind of like what we've been talking about. Do you think that's like his master plan, or what do you think his master plan is?
I think the like realistic master plan is to, based on Dame's comments too, it's to overpay for OG or McHale. I think that's going to be their all-in move.
Realistically, do you expect Cronin to have a realistic master plan?
No, I just think because in case you missed it, I want to read off the exact quote. So let me bring this up here. You can continue talking while
I talked about it on the on the radio today. So I saw it. Chat, what do you think Cronin's master plan is? And I'll think a couple of donuts while you do that. Shout out Priest, another $2 donut, says watched Carmelo finally retired. Overrated career? Wait, did Carmelo officially retire? Did I miss that?
I don't know.
If you did, I missed that. Thank you, Priest, for the $2 dono. Not gonna hate on Melo. I did enough of that back in his day when he was here. Shout out David Lester, $5 donut, says thanks for doing this show Friday night. Another microcosm game for this season. Hints of great play followed by reverting to poor ISO play in week D. Yeah, this was a carbon copy of a number of different games this year, and not surprised to see it happen. I'm just glad that I am not invested emotionally in this team winning games anymore this year because it was too much to handle earlier in the season, and I could not take more of it. Thank you, David Lester, for the $5 dono. Shout out Adsy Mac, member for 11 months, says, in isolation, this looks like a hard loss to accept, but no shame in losing to Philly by a point. Looking at it in whole with the season is crap as we're still in limbo. I mean, yeah, this is maybe the best we've played in a loss all season. You could maybe make that point. Yeah, after a loss, it's always like, oh, what did we do wrong? How did we lose this game? Especially when you lead by 15 going into the second half. So there was definitely some negatives. But overall, the Blazers played a relatively good game. Had some good performances by players. Philly's a good team at home. You lose by 1 off a game winner by Embiid that you literally can't guard on a move you can't guard. I mean, no loss is good unless you're rooting for a tank, but it's not like they played terrible, just struggled down the stretch for sure. Shout out Jesse Anishin with a $5 dono. Thanks, Jesse. Says, Tori, you are my voice for reason. I'm with you on 100% of what you say. Crazy how few people see the big picture. It's insane. Well, thank you, Jesse, for agreeing on everything I say. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the $5 dono. Yeah,
no person should ever agree 100% with anyone.
I mean, sometimes it just is a coincidence and happens that way, I guess. But, I try and be the voice of reason. Even if that's a negative, which a lot of people can't stand. There's this dude that's been just ranting about me on Twitter about how I'm too negative, and it's not even on my tweets, it's on other people's tweets. And I went to his profile, and there was a tweet from a month and a half ago where after we lost a game just like this, he tweeted at me and Eric, and he was like, you guys better not make excuses for this team after this game or something like that. And Eric, you responded, or what? And he's like, I just see you guys making excuses for this team a lot, and you guys should tell the truth or something like that. So he wanted us to not give this team excuses and to be hard on this team. But then, like, the past month, he's been complaining about how we're way too negative. It's just ridiculous, man. It's always funny to see people not want us to give the team excuses, but then get annoyed when we're too negative. So it's nice to have somebody agree. Thank you for the $5 dono. Then Blazer fan Ebby, or Fanaby, I like saying Blazer Fanaby, with a 10-month member message, says, close game but good for the tank. So, smiley face. Yeah, if you're rooting for the tank, this was a perfect game. Fun, high stakes, good atmosphere, good play, and a loss. So, it's a good game for the tank. Anyway, Eric, back to our conversation. Cronin's master plan to fix this.
All right, so in case you guys missed it, Dame had an interview with Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated today, and so he basically reaffirmed that they're optimistic they're going to make the playoffs because they're only a few games out and all that, stuff we knew he was going to say. But this is where it starts to worry me. He says, I definitely can understand what the plan is. Me and Joe, one thing we do have is transparency. He knows what I want. I want to win. I want to win in Portland. And he's expressed the same to me. He's told me, we want to give you every opportunity to win. His roster making proves otherwise, but beyond that point, and then he goes on to say there comes a time where we have to have the right intentions, but we've got to execute. We have to actually make that come to life to give ourselves a chance to really make a run at it. And because of who I know him to be, I trust him on that. I don't ever think he would tell me one thing and then not do it. If anything, I would just be like, we did our best and we couldn't do it. But there comes a time where they say, man, we can't get it done. Maybe it's time for us to turn the page. I don't think that'll be the case, but we'll see. Right now, all I know is I want to win.
I mean, yeah, there could come a time where they say, we should trade you to turn the corner, and then Dame would be like, all right, trade me then, you know what I mean? If this team goes to Dame and says, we want to trade you, I think Dame's loyalty at that point is out the window because the organization ain't being loyal to him. That's what that quote read to me, where it's like, if they want to turn the corner, they want to turn the corner.
And we get to the point where this is where I feel like they're just going to go all in on the best possible player they can, and they're going to overpay to do it no matter what happens because they have to do it, right? They can't just do anything. And so Lillard specifically says, that means we go into this offseason and we don't come out the way we have in the past, where it's like, oh, we're going to try to do something, and then we catch other people capitalizing on things out there, and we pass, and can't get anything done, and then it's done. It's like, all right, well, this is what we got going to the season. I think as far as execution, that means we go out there, we be aggressive, and we try to actually get something done, stepping out there and giving ourselves a chance to be one of those teams at the end. So I just... It's completely deflating, but now I feel like we're just going to trade everything for a win-now player. Well,
I think that's like probably plan C or plan D. I think Embiid is like one of their plans.
Well, yeah, of course.
But
I don't think they have much backup plans, though.
I did some thinking. And
That's dangerous.
So, and I kind of looked at this situation, and I feel like there's another star. We've talked about him a little bit, but another absolute superstar that could be their master plan, and that, of course, is a Greek player who, there was reports in the past that, hadn't Milwaukee figured things out and went on the run they did to win the championship, that Giannis wanted to play with Dame in Portland. And this offseason, I believe Chris Middleton's a free agent, and his play has declined a little bit this year. Drew Holiday, of course, is getting a little older there. So if things don't work out in Milwaukee, Giannis already won him a championship. I think he would like to play with Dame and was interested in coming here in the past. I feel like the master plan is hoping that Milwaukee fails and Giannis wants out. And at that point, Milwaukee would probably try and send Giannis somewhere he wants to go, considering he won them a championship. So I think, I feel like that might be at least one of Cronin's master plans.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think he just bought a sports team there, right? Or was partial owner of a sports team. I don't know. I think he's pretty ingrained in that community.
That could be true. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be Cronin's master plan.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm just completely spitballing here. But obviously, it's all this talk is obviously they have their sights set on, I feel like, somebody bigger than Mikal, the way they're talking about things. And that's the only two guys it could be is Embiid and Giannis.
Just to let you know, Chris Middleton has a over $40 million player option next year. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, he ain't declining that.
Yeah. So there goes that dream.
He ain't declining that, but he has declined this year. Injuries.
He was coming back from an injury, maybe.
Yeah,
a year off.
I don't think Giannis wants out of Milwaukee. I think it would be completely ludicrous.
He bought Nashville. Never mind. Okay, sorry.
Nashville. Yeah. So he's going to play with Ja if Ja stops with the shenanigans. I think it'd be a completely if it's possible, obviously you do it, but I don't think that'll be possible at all. So it's man, if you're telling Dame oh yeah, Giannis or Embiid is our master plan, we want to get you one of these guys, so we just gotta hope that Milwaukee or Philadelphia struggles in the playoffs, and who knows, they might play each other in the first round. That'd probably be the best case scenario, because then one of them loses in the first round. I don't know. I don't have faith going into the off season for anything. I just
I do agree with people like Alex Wolf in chat. That's their going to be the person they overpay for is Draymond.
How do they even get Draymond? And does Draymond want to leave Golden State? I don't think Draymond wants to leave Golden State. I don't know. Golden State needs him.
Actually, now trading with them might be. It would probably have to be Bob Myers out of there, but yeah.
I think Mikal is as unlikely as Embiid.
Yeah,
or
so
close to it.
So that all leads back to OG. Then we're gonna give up Ant and Sharp and 4 firsts and get OG.
Well, I don't think we're making a big splash this offseason. I think people will be saying, wait till the trade deadline, after they said wait till the offseason, after they said wait till the trade deadline, after they said they wait till the offseason. So I think that's what it will be. It'll be more, just wait, guys. Just wait. He just needs time to enact his master plan.
RG, it was Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated. I don't know if Sports Illustrated has a website or not, but you can find it on his Twitter page.
But that's why I'm rooting for the tank, Eric, is because all these situations are so unlikely. They're less likely than us getting Wembanyama if we have a 9% chance at Wembanyama.
Man, I'm not even confident that we'd keep that pick if we got Wembanyama now.
I think we'd trade it for Embiid or Giannis, or we keep it. I don't think we're trading the number 1 pick for Mikal Bridges or something like that. Like I don't think we are.
I think we're trading 3 or 4 for him if we do.
Yeah, that's at least that's not unreasonable depending on other things in the package.
Yeah. Well, the problem is we have to match salary now, and like we can't just trade crappy expiring picks like James Wiseman. You know what I mean? Like that's the frustrating part. And I don't think Dame realizes that when he makes these comments about, and that's why when people tell Tori and I we're so negative, like most of you guys in chat know this already, but I just want to explain it one more time. So if someone wants to like timestamp this, go ahead. But the reason why Tori and I have been so negative since the trade deadline is because people like Dame are expecting to have that big all-in move, and he talked about it. But if they were being smart about it, they would have realized that getting an expiring contract to attach to either the lottery pick or, even the 23rd pick or whatever we get, all 5 second-round picks we got, like those kind of things, you need contracts to get there. And Dame's not going to want to trade like the 4th pick and Anthony Simons for Mikal. He's going to want to get Mikal without giving up one of the starters. And we're going to have to go and tell him this summer that we unfortunately have to give someone up to get that player. And so, he's going to be like, well, what the heck? And unfortunately, like this is the situation where if we had the number 3 pick and James Wiseman, it doesn't matter how good James Wiseman is. He's an expiring $12 million contract that no team would care about taking on as long as they got the 3rd pick or whatever. So we could literally just trade him and Keon and Kevin Knox and the 3rd pick for Mikal Bridges probably and add to our core, And instead, now we have to talk about not only giving up the 3rd pick, but we have to give up one of Nurk, Sharp and Nas, or Nurk or Simons and the number 3 pick just to get one of those players. And so this all will come back to Cronin has continually made it harder and harder, both with his lack of asset acquisitions in trades and his lack of tradable contracts and tradable pieces to make that all-in move when it comes time to do it. So his lack of foresight to put the team in position to make those moves is what's going to be ultimately why it doesn't get done, or why this team is just rearranging deck chairs instead of actually making an all-in move that makes us a contender.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, if you're not trading a starter, the most salary you can match is probably, I don't know, like 17, 18 mil, right? Because you're talking about Nas at 6. I guess not counting Sharp either. Not counting starters or Sharp. You got Nas at a little more than 6 starting next year. You got Kevin Knox at $3 million. It's a team option, but they could pick that up in order to trade his salary. So you're a little bit above 9 there. You got Watford, that makes it about 11. Keon Johnson would make that about 14. So if you're not in the tax, you could bring back 19 million. If you're in the tax at the end of the trade, you could bring back approximately like $17.5 million. So if you're talking about a guy like OG, sure, but that is a lot of players to trade out, and that can get complicated and tough to make work for other teams because you're sending a bunch of players that need a destination to land. But if you're talking Mikal's making more than that, so then it's, you're addressing one starting spot, but you're opening up another that you have to address now. So, if it comes to like, the Knicks picking Nurk for Mikal, obviously I'd do that in a heartbeat, It's not like just because you trade one starter for another doesn't mean it's a good move. It's just, obviously, you're going to have to give up much more asset value in that. So then it becomes, how do you address that other starting spot you opened up when you don't have as many assets left and you don't have cap space? It becomes a little problematic. So the last thing this team needs is to make an all-in move in a way where they're not able to contend because they still have holes that they're then unable to address.
Yeah, they also, I mean, they have that $8 million trade exception now from the Peyton trade, so they could, in theory, use that to bring in someone, but that kind of limits your pool of players you're trading for. But like if the target was Devin Vassell or something like that, we could maybe do it, but there's not many players that are good enough to make us a contender and fit in an $8 million trade exception.
Yeah, I will. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, because I want to throw something else out there.
Yeah, I will throw one shred of positivity out there. It could come down to if Dame can effectively recruit Joel Embiid or Giannis to want to come to Portland. Now, I think Milwaukee would be more willing to work with Giannis on where he wants to go than Philadelphia with Embiid, because Giannis won them a championship, and Milwaukee's first in the East, but I don't think they're quite the same level as they have been, when they won the championship.
I think that's wishful thinking.
Chris Middleton, Chris Middleton needs to get back to the level that he was playing at, though. I just think in the playoffs, you need, Giannis is great, but you need that second, high-level offensive guy, and it can be Drew. It can be Drew, but he's had some real bad offensive nights in the playoffs. I don't know. We've seen this Milwaukee team collapse in the playoffs before. They figured out some of their demons en route to winning a championship, but you look at Phoenix last year, they had 64 wins, Eric, and they lost in the second round to the Dallas Mavericks and choked, So you never ruled out them having a struggle, but it's going to be a situation where Blazer fans are obviously rooting against those, the Bucks and the Sixers. I said they could face each other in the first round. That's not really true. Philadelphia's third, Milwaukee's first, so I thought Boston was still up top, and I thought Philadelphia was closer to sixth. Philadelphia has really figured things out this year and won 7 out of 10, won 4 in a row, including this game tonight. But the run shred of positivity is Portland hypothetically does have the assets to be in play for a type of guy that becomes available like that. The tough part is those guys becoming available. And that's where, maybe it's not one of those guys, maybe it's somebody else, but it comes down to maybe Dame can work some magic like he did with Jeremy Grant. Who knows? And that's where the front office and Dame have to be on the same page. But I don't know. I'm sure the Blazers would take a massive swing right now, and they potentially have the assets for that right now. That's 2 of the 3 ingredients. The third ingredient is going to be really hard to come by, and that's one of those guys becoming available.
Yeah. Would you rather be Giannis or Embiid?
Giannis.
Yeah, me too.
Giannis is better. Giannis is more of a matchup problem. Giannis has led his team to a championship. Embiid hasn't led his team to the conference finals. Even Dame has led his team to the conference finals. So
a little less injury concern too. So here's what I was going to suggest, and this is the type of stuff
I'm ready to hide.
I think of, and I'm fully aware the Blazers will not do this, so don't kill me when it doesn't happen. But how far are the Blazers under the tax right now?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't care. Screw Jody.
It's about $6.1 million, I believe, right?
Something like that.
There's no chance they're using their biennial exception next summer, right?
Yeah.
Unless Grant bounces or something, Okay. So that is $4.1 million this year, and I think it goes up to $4.3 million next year. So just sign someone right now to the biennial exception for 2 years. It prorates for this year. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just sign someone. It can be John Butler for all I care. I get where you're going with this, yeah. So then this summer, when that bumps up to $4.3 million, then that's another contract we can add to the pool of players that we can trade out, and then matching, just having that $4.3 million to attach to Nas and Keon and Knox, that then gets us in the door for a little slightly higher path to trade for like a Mikal Bridges without giving up Anthony or Sharp or whatever. If that's what the plan is. But the thing is, at the deadline, they were unwilling to take someone on like Saddiq Bey, who was going to be making about that much. So, yeah.
I was going to say, Eric, that is a really, really good idea
if you had a commitment.
If you don't have a cheap owner.
But that's like, see, that's why I wish, like, I mean, I'm not saying I should be in Dame's ear or something, but if I did have Dame's ear, I would be telling him stuff like they screwed you over at the deadline by not taking on Wiseman, and it was all to save a few $1 million because they still could have done it and stayed under the tax. And then I would bring up this idea where if you just sign someone, you would have that tradable contract, because otherwise your boy Ant's going to have to be traded if you want one of these players, you know? And Dame's going to be like, what the heck, man? We're like, we have all these firsts and stuff. And I'm like, I'll be like, well, how are you matching the salary to get this guy, right? So, yeah, like what it just, to me, Jody's like limiting what Cronin could do, but he still could have gotten enough salary. And that's why there's no other explanation other than they are not going to go in the tax next year, even though everyone tries to tell me they are. I'm telling you right now, not taking on any salary in any trade for next year was a clear-cut sign that they are trying to re-sign Grant and still have a chance to avoid the tax by re-signing Thybulle and Reddish. And this is all just a load of crap that they'll ever like make an all-in move and pay whatever it takes to do that. And maybe if the perfect trade like Embiid became available, then Jody would be like, okay, let's go into the tax. But short of that happening, I just don't think they're willing to do it.
If they can get to contention, you could make the, if you got a Giannis or Embiid, you could make the argument that some of paying the tax would be offset because they would make a lot more off ticket sales. They would, potentially make a bunch of money off playoffs, merchandise. If you had Giannis Antetokounmpo, the merchandise would be insane. The only way she goes into the tax, in my opinion, is if they get a true superstar like an Embiid or Giannis. That's the only way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out for those guys.
But I don't think they're just going to be like trade for like a good $25 million player by adding all these other pieces and then just like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's where I think they're going after either one of those two guys. And then I don't know if they have a plan C.
Like let's say
they're just hoping that one of those teams collapses and then everything falls into place, which is not realistic.
Like, let's say there was a scenario where they could add OG to this roster without doing anything, but it put them in the tax. I don't know if they would do that. And that's frustrating to me that I don't know the answer. You know what I mean? Like, I would hope they would. And I mean, it doesn't work out with the CBA, but like, yeah.
It's very frustrating. Absolutely. The fact that we have to ask these questions, which we didn't have to ask these questions a decade ago, is frustrating. For sure. That's where I hope the team gets sold to a good owner, where it's like we don't, because that's the other obstacle in regards to like the all-in move. But I mean, I don't know, man. That's where if we got the number one overall pick, it would make these issues less drastic. You know what I mean? Like, because you have a dude that could be a top 10 player in the next 2 to 3 years, in my opinion.
On a rookie contract.
Barely making anything, and could be the magic cure for your defense.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm happy that the Blazers lost today. Like, getting Victor Wembanyama would solve basically all these issues, and you could still hypothetically, maybe be in play for something for Ant, Sharp, and 4 future firsts, or 1 being the Knicks pick, and then 3 future firsts for the Blazers. With Ant and Ant and Sharp, I think that's a solid package. Mm-hmm. I think you could make the argument that it's close to what the Suns gave up for KD.
Yeah. And I mean, Embiid's a little different because he's younger and he's under contract for 4 more years after
Yeah.
this one, so that's tough. But
that's the thing is, like, if that was still possible on top of Wembanyama, where you could get, one of those guys and Wembanyama and Dame, then obviously you're contending. But you wouldn't be as desperate for that sort of move because you'd have Wembanyama. Mm-hmm. Like, you would have a really, really good player and asset added on without having to worry about paying the tax, and it would make you less desperate for that true superstar because you probably got a true superstar in the next 2 to 3 years in Wemby. So,
Ish asks, hey Eric, how much would Jody have to pay for going over? I don't know these things. So they're hard caps, so the most they could pay is like $6 million in tax or something. I think it's a little more than that. It could affect 3 or 4 years down the road if they're in the tax several years in a row. So if they're thinking about it long term, but to me, if you're committed to Dame and winning now, you can't play it both ways. You have to either commit to making the financial commitment as well. But yeah, so the big thing is it went down a little bit at the trade deadline because a couple teams got out of the tax. And I believe it's roughly 14 to 16 million per team that's not in the tax that they get a payment for at the end of the season. So she would lose that payment and then another like 6 million or so. So she basically losing about 20 million or so.
Here's the thing though, the tax goes up like what, $12 million next year because the cap goes up 10, and then it's like 100% of that. So what, like 11 to 12 million? Could there be lower tax payments next year? Like for teams that aren't in the tax based on the tax rising compared to salaries potentially.
Here's the funny thing, Tori. So this is some inside information for some people. So
you don't have a source. You're not.
Yeah, I actually know someone in the that is in the Players Association. But anyways,
interesting. CJ.
Interesting CBA type stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that pretty much everyone involved is in agreement on, that the luxury tax thing is dumb and that they might do something different in the next CBA.
What would be the difference?
Well, like either
just completely getting rid of the luxury tax?
Either getting rid of it or making it like the luxury tax is like always a hard cap, but like increasing it higher. So like you could still go up to the tax, but like have it always be a hard cap.
So instead of a luxury tax, it's just a hard cap. You have it's the salary cap works the same way, but then when you can only go a certain amount over the salary cap until you're hard cap.
Yeah, so let's say like the cap's 120 million, so then the hard cap would be like 180 million. So you could go up to that, but like
that would be so nice right now, man.
I know.
We didn't have to worry about this arbitrary freaking number. But the thing is, she's still ducking the tax by multiple millions and not signing guys. So then it becomes, our owner just wants to save as much money as possible, regardless of there not being a tax.
Yeah. Or they could just make it a hard tax altogether. But this is what I'm talking. I was talking about this, I think, last stream or the stream before, when it came to Jody being willing to pay Geno Smith and not pay like the tax for the Blazers or whatever. So like there's several owners that are like, why the heck do we have to make these decisions in the NBA, but other sports don't have these issues and stuff? So I think both the owners, and then that would make, theoretically more money for players as well. But yeah, so look for that to possibly, so like everyone's worried about starting the repeater tax or whatever. There might not even be a repeater tax in like 2 years. So like that whole thing might be completely changed. So like, but here's what I always come back to, right? I just mentioned we're like a little over 6 million under the tax, right? How much would a legit backup center have helped this team this year?
Could have helped for sure, yeah.
Like if we had, let's just say Daniel Gafford, who's making like $2 million, right?
Cool. Yeah.
right? Like we'd probably be, you know, fourth seed, fifth seed right now. Like I don't think that's a stretch to say. Like we're only a few games behind that. Having legit depth and a defensive minded center would possibly have helped us win a few more games, and we're still only like 3 or 4 games behind that seed anyway. So this is where I get puzzled, and it's the Blazers are in a position to where they could have added a backup center at any point this season and stayed under the tax with smart moves like they did. They could have still done that in the buyout market, and I'm not saying Nerlens Noel would have helped or anything, but as Tori was on 620, a local radio station, before the game today with Chad Doing, so shout out to you if you heard that interview. Tori did a really good job on there, but yeah, so the thing is, we're not even willing to pay like $500,000 to get this team some backup help when this this roster has needed help. So like, what makes you think she's going to be willing to pay the tax in the future? It's not even about starting the repeater tax. Like we won't even get, as Kevin Reese mentioned and you mentioned on that show, Serge Ibaka is out there right now. Like, I'm not saying he can help this team, but like, we're not even willing to try that route to see if having just one extra big body on this team helps at all. And we see tonight, it didn't end up coming into play in the second half, but Drew and Nurk both get 2 fouls rather quickly in their stints tonight. It would be nice to have a third center you can put in, or like when Nurk was out for 20 plus games, you can throw in a backup big, and you're not trying to force Drew and Eubanks into this. So like she's not even willing to do that. That doesn't put her in the tax and doesn't jeopardize that $20 million that we talked about already. So like I don't think she's dedicated to doing what it takes at all.
Yeah, I just think the only way it changes is if it's for a superstar. That's where I'm at, And if it comes out we didn't trade for a superstar because she's being cheap, then I mean, then this is the worst organization in pro sports. Because then she's lying to Cronin probably, because Cronin's telling Dame, and it's just a mess. That's like the worst case scenario. So I don't know. I mean, I think she would. I just for a superstar though, because you would make a lot more money if you had Giannis on this team. You'd make a lot more money, Eric, as an owner. So you could justify it. But
then we go back to getting hard capped, right? So like, if Giannis would have demanded a trade last summer and we got hard capped by signing Gary Payton, who didn't even want to be here and just wanted the money, and
I mean, we couldn't have gotten him, yeah.
Yeah, like, but that's what I'm saying is,
but we couldn't have gotten him regardless of getting hard capped or not, because we didn't have the contracts to trade for him.
Yes, but that's my point, is like they keep preaching that they're going for it, but they're not actually setting themselves up to go for it, and that's what's frustrating to me, is like they couldn't even have gone for it if they wanted to last summer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this summer's different though. They will be able to go for it with a package of Ant, Sharp, potentially Nurkic. Like they do have the contracts and potentially the assets. So I don't view it in the same light as like last offseason where they had no combinable, tradable contracts to add up to KD.
Yeah, but being hard capped all year also made that difficult to make a big trade at the deadline. That trade I mentioned earlier would be easier. The Jimmy Butler Bam trade would be easier to do before the new league year, but we can't even do that because the hard cap situation, it would be too much salary coming back. So like they said it
really, because how much are we below the tax right now?
Like 6 million, so it's about 12 million.
So we're like 12, 13 million.
Yeah. And that trade was adds 16.5 million.
Because we need to fill in the extra roster spots. Yeah. I mean,
no,
that trade is like a very extreme.
No, I know, but like if you're trying to match like a $40-some million contract like some of these players are, it still becomes tougher, especially with, like you said, adding contracts back.
Yeah, I mean, Ant and Nurk equals 40 mil.
But I'm talking about like going into the season, just hard capping yourself limits you from ever having to like really do some of those things, and using trade exceptions like bringing in Cam Reddish instead of giving up Hart, and then you have both Hart and Cam Reddish right now. Like those are win now moves, while also, doing the same things they accomplished at the trade deadline, but you get better because you're adding to your talent pool instead of trading Hart for Reddish or whatever. So like,
well, that's
like those are the kind of moves they're unwilling to make. So like, I don't want to hear that they're committed to Dame, because if they were, they wouldn't be worried about, oh, we're not going to pay Josh Hart, or we're not going to do this, or we're not going to do that. It's like it always comes back to me. So far, every move they've made, whether it's they're winning or not. I mean, earlier in the season they were winning, and it seemed like maybe they go in the tax this year, but they still didn't like sign anyone or trade for anyone. Like I don't know, just frustrating.
Well, I feel like they haven't made it easy to make like smaller win now moves, or like, moves using a trade exception to get back an asset. Like, they have not put themselves in position to do that. I still think, obviously, this deadline, they could have made a swing with Nurk and Ant for, if Embiid randomly became available, or Giannis randomly became available, which is not realistic whatsoever, but hypothetically, if a star became available, you have the contracts to trade for him. So I don't think that was necessarily limited. It was more so like the smaller moves. It was basically like all or nothing, right? And going into this offseason, you could make the argument that trading Josh Hart set them up to make a splash move this offseason, in terms of they wouldn't have been able to trade Josh Hart unless it was a sign and trade, right? He was going to be a free agent, so they weren't going to be able to trade him in a Embiid or Giannis package this offseason, whereas that Knicks pick, they can trade. That can be an asset going to one of those teams.
Depends on how much money he made, because if it wasn't much more than like 16 or 17 million, they could have done what the Clippers did with Rocco last summer and the Raptors did with Thaddeus Young, and just sign him to an extension. That's an option now for non-rookie deal players, to sign him to an extension without going over a certain amount, and they are still trade eligible immediately.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, it's like you'd have to pay him to a high enough salary in order for him to not test the free agent market, which probably means it have to be a pretty solid salary. And then at that point, would a team rather have him on, a pretty good price tag, like a pretty heavy price tag, $16-17 million a year? Would a team that's trading a Giannis or Embiid rather have him, or a first round pick, like the 23rd pick?
Well, we still could have traded him and gotten that first in Hartenstein or something, but we're not willing to take on salary for next year. So that's
I'm just saying, I don't think that move necessarily hurt the ability to make an all-in move.
Yeah,
but in terms of this is basically my point. It didn't hurt us in terms of making an all-in move. If anything, it might have slightly helped us. But if that all-in move isn't there, then it probably hurt us, because it's a role player that we lost. So it's basically, as I said, it's like in terms of working around the edges of the roster and building up asset worth and that sort of thing, they're not doing that. It's basically become a situation where they're either going all in for a star or they're screwed.
Yeah. And that sucks, because if they can't get it done, now Dame's saying that's not acceptable this summer, basically.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, but that's not okay. So yeah, you may be setting yourself up, but once again, they weren't willing to take back any salary for this summer, so that's not necessarily setting them up as good as they could have been set up. But at the same time, that basically goes back to why we're so negative, and that's that they decided to punt on this year in lieu of hoping to make that big splash this summer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just think, I don't know. Is it the same conversation punting on this year versus potentially having an all-in move this summer?
I mean, like I'm saying, they probably could have had both, but they weren't willing to, because they could have gotten
exactly.
If they got Hartenstein or Wiseman or something, at least they have a big body that can protect the rim a little bit, you know? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think the front office has, I think at least ownership and probably Cronin too have punted on this season, and I think part of it is they realize that if they get a better draft pick this year and they try to put themselves in a position where they can change the protections on the future Chicago pick that we owe if we miss the playoffs, basically it's a situation where, we can go all in next year and be better next year if we miss the playoffs, so we're not going to shell out extra money for something that's going to take us further away from having that asset in terms of a better first-round pick with better odds to potentially end up number one.
Mm.
So I think that's how ownership and front office has looked at it, and it's basically punting on the season, yeah.
But how is that being transparent with Dame, though? You know what I mean?
I mean, it's not being fully transparent with Dame, but it's like, what do you tell Dame, if that's the reality?
I mean, maybe was told that they're giving up on the season, but you can still go for it, but, like, we're not going to help you. And he's still willing to do that, but...
Here's what I think happened. I think it was they wanted to go after Vanderbilt, and they had a couple of plans that didn't work out at the deadline, so then it was like, okay, well, our plans didn't work out. Yep. We did bring in a couple of guys that could potentially help the team, but we weren't able to get the guys that we wanted, so this is what our roster will be if, But then if you can carry us, then, go ahead. Like, we'll still, it's not like we're tanking the rest of the year. We'll still play you. Yeah. But really, it's going to be this offseason when we are next able to make a splash. Like, that's probably what they said, which isn't not being transparent, but it's not necessarily the full truth at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by...
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like we've exhausted this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I really wanted to say something, but I forgot.
I'll plug something. You can think of that. I'm doing a $20 bracket pool, and then we'll also do a free bracket pool, for March Madness. Okay, so if you're interested in being a part of the $20 bracket pool, message me on Discord or message me on Twitter or send me an email, blazersupprise@gmail.com, and we'll get you in with that, and then I'll have a free pool link. Probably the next stream we have, I'll have that set up by then. So if you want to be a part of the free one, just stay tuned for that. And then Kieran won the Knicks tickets as he was at the watch party, and I did a drawing for people that were at the watch party, and it came up with Kieran, and there's 2 tickets, and he said, I might give one of those to somebody in the community. And I know Kieran was in here, so I'm wondering if what Kieran's plan is for that.
He should find his biggest hater.
Yeah, Kevin Reese. So, Kieran, yeah, I'll if you give them away, then I can send one to you and send one to the person you give it away to, or I can send both to you, but that's for the Knicks on March 14th. It's the return of Josh Hart. So, Kevin Reese says I wasn't listening. What else is new? Anyway, I don't even know if Kieran's here anymore. Kieran says, I don't like the people in chat right now. Someone who I like, say hi. Kieran likes you and you say hi and want to go to the game on the 14th, you might have a ticket. It's not the best seat, but Knicks, return of Josh Hart, it's a pretty good game. So, and it's not like the Blazers give me tickets to give away, unfortunately. So, I'd love nothing more than to be able to give away tickets to every home game. But unfortunately, that's not the way it is. Do media members get that? I know radio stations get that.
Okay, what?
Oh, like tickets to give away.
Oh, yeah.
I wish we did. That'd be cool. Could do like trivia or something. Could do fun ways to give it away. When does Torrey play Chief in? Probably never, because he'll never show up. But me and Stephen Vaughn were talking about how Stephen Vaughn could get us set up with a free indoor gym, Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking forward to seeing if that's doable. Probably after the season, sometime in April, during the playoffs. Notice how I said after the season? Yeah, because we won't be there. But me and him are going to play one-on-one because he's a really good college player. He was like 18-point-something points per game. But, of course, he's a decade older than me, so age is a little bit more on my side. And, so we're going to do a video in the off-season. Best of 3, 2s and 3s to 21. I'm going to play Steven one-on-one and see if I can beat him. And that's going to be a video on the channel.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and then, if I ever play Chiefin, I guess I'll throw that in there as like a YouTube short as I take 30 seconds to score 20 points on him. AJ Poseidon says, Torrey, if you lose... Bro, Steven was a much better college basketball player than I was. Steven was good. Like, Steven was good. So, if I lose, I'm the underdog.
No,
I'm the underdog. I averaged 2.2, Eric. Everybody loves to talk about how I averaged 2.2. He averaged 18.2.
Man,
I'm the underdog.
He's not... You still play basketball all the time. He barely plays anymore. That's something that...
Hey, it's like riding a bike, okay? So
no, it's
not.
It's
like riding a bike.
No, it's not.
It's like riding a bike.
You're not old enough to know that yet.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. He thinks he'll beat me. Apparently his wife thinks he'll beat me. So, we'll see. But, yeah, that'll be good content. But just to let you guys know, I am the underdog, all right? I am the underdog. No matter what Eric says, I'm the underdog.
It was like 12 per 36, right?
It was like 12 points. I averaged like 7 minutes per game, so.
Yeah.
My best 2 games were against the team that was the best that won the championship for our 33-team league.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're like freaking LeBron. I'm just a kid from Akron. No one believed in me, and I somehow won a championship, even though I had the chosen one tattooed on my freaking chest.
You're calling me LeBron? I mean, normally I like when you gas me up, but I think that's a little bit too much gas there.
Yeah. Right, bobblehead. Yeah. Literally everyone believed in LeBron. Yeah, he tries to use that as some sort of motivation, like you're doing right now.
I shouldn't tell them how much I scored last night.
I'll tell him. Torrey had 95 in his rec game. On pineapples, and he didn't show his face tonight.
You weren't supposed to tell him that I told you it was against his team.
You never told me that.
Well, you figured it was assumed you wouldn't tweet it at him. No, I have the score. I have the score sheet. Well, it's okay. So it's 4-on-4s with a 20-second shot clock. So 20-minute halves. So it's a little bit easier to put up numbers. But 95, of course, is kind of absurd.
Yep. It's just like, well, no film. Yep.
I have the score sheet, man, and Pineapples can attest to it, so I have a witness too. No, I just in the first half I was like 11 for 14 from 3, and 2 of them were like deep, probably 28 footers. contested, just pulling up in transition. Because basically we just went into it, like I said before the game, like, let's just run a 7 seconds or less offense. Just the first okay shot you get, just shoot and don't care. Like, it just went into the game like that. And because I had like 3 guys on my team, we didn't have our big man. So I was like, let's just run. I had 3 shooters with me. So I hit 2 like contested 28-footers. I hit 2 like, the KD Hezzy with the hang dribble on the left and stepping into it. Hit 2 of those. Hit 1 off a handoff, like running to the right, running into the 3, a little bit of a fade. Couple catch and shoot. Like I was like trying to keep track. I think I finished like 15 for 24 from 3. So that's 45 right there. And then I literally couldn't miss a layup no matter how absurd the layup was. So literally made every layup. And that's the thing when I play. If I can shoot, then it opens up the drive, man. It opens up everything. It's so much easier when I'm knocking down shots because I'm super streaky. I'll have games where I can't buy a 3 and guys will just play off me, and then I'm driving at a guy who's just kind of backing up. It's a lot tougher. So yeah, it was.
You shoot free throws in that league, or just take it up top?
Take it up top.
Yeah.
I don't think I called a foul all game.
Yeah,
I don't think I called a foul.
It's call your own fouls, right?
Yeah, it's call your own fouls. So it's a little different. Like I'm not about to go to Portland City League and score half that even. So, but it was the most. I played in that league for 15 years. It was the most I've scored. It was. I was hunting the second half, but I shot probably 75-80%.
Where's Apollo to call you a stat pattern?
I know. I was hunting for sure because I had 45 at half. So
how many assists did you have?
I had 5.
5. Nice.
I had 21 boards. So, yeah. AJ, I thought I was okay. So, I made 2 threes in the last 30 seconds from about 28, 27 feet, probably. Like NBA range threes. Made a couple of them at the end of the game, and I was like, okay, I got above 80, I think. If I knew I was at 95, because I stopped hunting the last 5 minutes because I was exhausted. It's exhausting. So, yeah. So I'm not doing it against they were missing their best player and he can lock me up. He's a good defender. I would not have gotten close against him, but yeah, I was hunting a little bit. But I shot really efficient. So yeah. Anyway, I wish Pineapples was here to give his side of the story.
He tried to say he wasn't guarding you much.
On the ball, no, but he was helping a lot. I started Euro stepping really well. I was breaking out the bag, so
nice.
Nah, he defends decently. He's solid. He's not bad. It wasn't a complete trash run or anything. People just need to put some respect on my name, but also remember I'm the underdog when I play Steven as well, okay?
You can't play box and 1 and 4-on-4.
Yeah, it's a triangle and 1. At halftime, they said box and 1. I'm like, no, y'all can't do that.
Tori's 6'4".
I wanted to ask him how tall he thought I was. I wanted to see what every time somebody asks that, we should just have it. Yeah, because we need to. Because that's what people think. I'm 5'10" next to. Oh, I'm Eric Brand. I got big old shoulders. Big man. Eric makes me look short. That was going to be his guess? Yeah. People think I'm 5'10". It actually upsets me, kind of. You look like you're 5'9". Does everybody think I'm short, man?
Yeah, AJ, right? You scored 95, but you're scared of Steven.
I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anyone. Dude, you could put me in an NBA court and okay, I'd be scared, but I'm not scared of Steven. I just know that it's like if I'm not making threes against him, it's gonna be a freaking struggle. That's what it's gonna come down to because I don't think he'll get out all the way. I don't know. It's a lot of pressure, all right?
Yeah. Is Steven like 6'2"?
Yeah, he's 6'2". He's strong, though. Dallin says he could beat me. Dallin, I had a teammate named Dallin on my high school varsity team, and I cooked him, so I'm sure I could.
So that means you suck.
Yeah, no.
If anyone cares, I won my rec game last night by 7 points. We had to win by 5 points to avoid a triple header next Thursday in the playoffs, and so that was we pushed the ball at the buzzer and hit a lane at the end. I felt so bad, but I was like, dude, we have to.
yeah, point total, yeah. Steven played at Concordia College. He has his jersey hanging behind him in our podcast, which we're dropping one in the next 24 hours, by the way. We recorded it last night, but didn't get around to it today with my radio appearance and everything. So, and I'm doing new graphics for those, so it takes a little longer. But hopefully you enjoy the new graphics for those. I think they're cool. And I'm excited. I've learned a lot in the past 6 months, Photoshop-wise, graphically, that I will be able to make the graphics even better next year. So I'm looking forward to next year.
Nice.
Already. This season's not done, and I'm looking forward to next year, Eric. Anyway. Tori, do you play defense? When I try to, yeah. When I was scoring 95, I was not playing defense. I was tired, but we were up, so I think...
Tori's got some skills defensively.
I'm 6'4", but I'm not a stiff. I'm not.
He can lock down if he wanted to.
I feel like people think I'm short, Eric, and then I say I'm 6'4", and people think I'm probably like uncoordinated and slow and a stiff. I need a little bit of respect. All right, a little bit of respect. Yes, I have a floater. Can I move my feet? Yes, I could move my feet. We should run a one-on-one tournament. All right. Sure. When we get our gym, you can show up, Dallin. Make sure you follow me on Twitter so you can DM me for the location. Nick Thompson, absolutely agree. Tori, can you call out Peyton Pritchard for a 1v1? I'm not going to... Let me have my claim to fame that I blocked him and outplayed him in one game without, turning it into, I played him 1v1 and he beat me 21-0 and absolutely cooked me and broke my ankles and made me look foolish. All right, I don't want to play. I don't want to play him again because it won't end as well as the last time.
I absolutely hate 1-on-1.
Yeah, I'm not a 1v1 player. I love transition, so transition play.
Yeah.
Anyway. What school did I go to? Columbia River, Vancouver. For high school.
I went to Glencoe.
Yeah. Anyway, we're 2 hours in. We're talking about basketball. Reddit's going to be mad. Oh, well. We'll be live again on Sunday. With a... what time does that game start?
4. You're good.
Okay, so... Same time that it's been starting. All right. So for 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. stream, might be an Eric Solo stream. We'll see. After this eventful game, I didn't want to miss the stream, so Sunday night could be Eric Solo running the stream for the first time ever.
We were playing the Pelicans.
Yeah, so could be a win, honestly, because they're beat up. We'll see. Of course, we lost to them at home last time we played them. Anyway. Anything else, Eric?
Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your night and Saturday, and hope to see you all Sunday evening.
Yep, time for me to run from the grind and end the stream. We will catch you on Sunday. This has been the Blazers Uprise Postgame show presented by Bet Online. Use the promo code BELIEVE for a 50% reward bonus. On Sunday, brackets will be out, so looking forward to that. Once again, if you want to join my $20 bracket pool, message me on any of the platforms that I'm active on, except for OnlyFans. Just kidding. And then we'll have a free
They can't message you on OnlyFans?
No,
Don't you
no,
want
they have to-
subscribers?
they have to pay to message me on OnlyFans. So
Don't you want that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, just let me know if you want our $20 bracket pool. We'll have a free bracket pool as well. So anyway, that's a wrap for this postgame show. We'll catch you Sunday, or at least Eric will. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.